Hey everyone, this is Liam from Solitude here. Thanks for joining me to listen to this podcast that I'm putting out about WA music which has come out over the past couple of months. Now, if you were following my YouTube channel, or you might have seen this previous podcast come up on the Perth Music Network or a Facebook group or Reddit page or something like that, I really appreciate that you're coming back for the second one, or this might be the first time that you have seen this podcast. I'll just kind of explain to you what I'm doing. So I live in Western Australia. I'm a huge fan of WA music, and I really like to talk about up-and-coming WA musicians, bands, and songs that are coming out, and also talk about the more well-known WA artists and Perth artists as well, and what they're putting out. So last year in December, I put out a podcast which was kind of like the first time I tried doing a podcast about WA music, and my first attempt at doing one specifically about songs that came out from Western Australia, or artists that are from Western Australia, over the year 2021. So it got received pretty well. I had a lot of good positive comments, and as I imagined also, I had a lot of people saying like, oh, what about this band? What about this artist? Did you check this one out? And I was really hoping for that, because it meant that like people were interested in someone talking about WA music, and there was kind of a space there for, potential for growth and for an audience to get interested. So that's why I thought I'd make another podcast. So this is kind of like my second episode. But this time I'm speaking specifically about West Australian music that has come out over the past 2 months. And I'm also kind of counting a little bit of music that came out at the end of December as well, because my first one that I put out about the 2021 music came out kind of halfway through December. And it just so happened that some pretty good WA songs came out in that last couple of weeks of December that I want to talk about too, by some big artists, and some good up-and-coming artists. So this podcast is specifically about songs that have come out by West Australian musicians over the months of January and February of 2022, and also a tiny bit of December of 2021. So I'm just going to get into the songs and the artists in a minute, but I also want to just quickly talk about where I'm kind of getting my source of music from, just in case anyone is wondering. So I used to volunteer at a local radio station called 89.7 FM, and I was there for about 3 years, and I ran a show called The Garage, where I specifically played punk, grunge, and alternative rock music, mostly by up-and-coming West Australian artists. And it was awesome. I really loved doing it, and it was a lot of good fun. And it helped me kind of understand where to find this new up-and-coming music. I'm still keeping up quite a lot with what is happening in the West Australian music scene, mostly through two sources. Now, the first source, which is probably, in my opinion, the best source for keeping up with what's happening in West Australian music, and specifically music that has been released, is Triple J Unearthed. Now, this website has gone through a bit of a change over the last 6 months. They've upgraded it. They've made it look a lot nicer, and it's a lot more user-friendly and more content creator friendly as well, as they say. I wouldn't know because I don't upload content to there, but supposedly Triple J have said that it is a lot easier to upload your new songs there. So in the previous Triple J Unearthed website though was excellent for being able to see what WA music has come out, because you could just quickly click on a couple of links, and you could filter out, or you could just filter the songs that have been released over like the last month. So you could say everything that was released recently, and then you could choose location, Western Australia, and then you could choose genres if you really wanted to. So for my show, I did punk and grunge mostly, so I would choose like punk or rock and see what would come up. But I also am really interested in other genres as well. So that's what I used to do quite a lot. But this new version of Triple J Unearthed doesn't have that available yet. Now, I have been told, actually specifically by a employee at Triple J who works for Triple J Unearthed on a subreddit that I was talking to people about. This worker popped up on there and commented and said that their filters will be coming back. They're just not back yet. And that the new website is still kind of in a bit of a teething process. So it's still a good place to find new Australian and specifically West Australian music. But at the moment, you can't use those filters. So that's kind of been frustrating me a little bit about finding new West Australian music. But I also follow a lot of bands on Facebook. So if they put something new out and they make a post about it on their social media, I usually see that there. But the other great place that I am using to find new West Australian music is a website called AMRAP. Now, AMRAP can only be accessed by people who are members of a community radio station that fall under the category of CBAA. I can't remember what that stands for. Community Broadcasting Association Australia, I think. So the previous radio station that I volunteered at was a CBAA station, and then they allow you to get an account on this website called AMRAP, where you can download any new releases by Australian artists that have been put out on that website. It's mostly so that you could download the MP3 or the WAV file so that you could play it on your radio station. But I still have this account active, and I still use it quite regularly to find new West Australian music that's come out. And it's kind of for the similar reasons why I use Triple J Unearthed. So you could filter it. You can say most recent releases. You could choose Western Australia as a location, and you can filter genres if you want to. So that's still working really well for me. And yeah, at the moment, because I haven't got Triple J Unearthed making filters for me, I've mostly just been using AMRAP. And the other good thing about AMRAP is I also feel like it kind of filters out everyone who is not taking their music super seriously. And one thing that I think is really important about being an up-and-coming local musician is to actually take your music really seriously. So, that means like recording it seriously, making it sound great, and trying to get it to as many places as possible where people can access it. So the sort of music that gets put on AMRAP is by artists who really care about their music and want it to be put out there, and are really keen to have it played on community radio stations. Whether or not like actually having your songs played on community radio stations is beneficial or not, like I'm not too sure. Like I was saying before, radio is a dying medium, but I still think like there would be some benefit out there. And like I said, I think it shows professionalism at least to try and put your music out there so that radio stations around the country can see that you're releasing new music. All right, now I want to jump into some music and specifically talk about the West Australian artists and their songs that they've put out recently. So I'm going to go and do this through alphabetical order, in order of the artist name. And the first artist I want to talk about is a band called Big Orange, and they have released some new music. They've got a new song out. It's called By the Dozen. Now, I've been kind of keeping my ear out for Big Orange over the last few years. I really liked some of their music that they put out a couple of years ago. It kind of sounded a lot similar to the Smashing Pumpkins kind of melancholy, Infinite Sadness era Smashing Pumpkins, which I'm a huge fan of. So I've always kind of kept my eye out for them. And this new music that they have, it's kind of not so much in that vein anymore. It's still kind of drawing on like nostalgia and, feelings of, think about the past in their lyrics and things like that. But it's not so much as like rock driven. It's still kind of like indie and indie rock to a degree. but it's a lot softer. I still think that their sound is great, and I think that they sound really professional. And yeah, I think that they're definitely worth your time to check out. So give them a look. Big Orange, and their song is called By the Dozen. All right, next artist that I want to talk about is who I think is someone pretty new. I haven't heard of them before, but I saw their music pop up on AMRAP, and I thought I'd check them out. So the artist name is Brightsider. I'm not sure if they're a band or a solo musician. I think I remember seeing some pictures on social media or their Spotify where it was just a picture of one guy. But anyway, they've put out a bit of music now, this band or person, Brightsider, and they've released this one song called Erase, which I think is excellent. It's kind of like a little Nick Cave sort of inspired, I would say. Maybe it's like got like really sort of melancholy piano and kind of masculine sort of sounding vocals. It's really cool. I think it's something that I'll definitely be keeping my eye out on more. And yeah, check it out if you haven't heard of Brightsider. They have some other music up on their Spotify as well that would definitely be worth your time. All right, moving on. We've also got some new music coming out from Carla Geneve. Now, I did speak a little bit about Carla Geneve in my previous video and about some social issues that she has been going through and some accusations that have been cast upon her. I'm just going to reiterate, I'm not going to delve into those. That's not really my place to. I still think she's a great musician. I hope that whatever is going on with her and in her life and the people that are also involved in these issues gets sorted out. But all I can comment on is that apparently she is bringing out a new album. It was supposed to be out last year. There was another single that's come out to promote that. It's called Brighter Than Blue. It's pretty much what you would expect from her right now. Emotional vocal delivery. Great sort of, sort of singer-songwriter, female vocal stuff. A little bit more on the rockier side, as opposed to kind of her like bedroom pop sort of beginnings. But yeah, it's cool. I like her music a lot. Okay, next up I want to talk about Death by Denim. Now, they've got a new song out called Make It Up As We Go. They're still doing some good stuff, this band. I would love to see them kind of make the leap a little bit more. They're getting played on Triple J quite a lot, or they have been over the past couple of years. And as far as I'm aware, I think this song has been played on Triple J a little bit. I'm not sure how much. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see them put out a song that just kind of captures the attention of the Australian public a little bit more. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. I don't know if it would be this song. I mean, we'll kind of be able to tell a little bit more over the coming months. I think they're putting out a new album this year. I could be wrong. But I mean, they're constantly releasing new music, so it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I'd love to see them kind of take the next step, a little bit like where another band that I'm going to be talking about later are going, Great Gable. I feel like they're kind of bridging a little bit more towards popularity across all of Australia. And yeah, they're kind of in that sort of similar sound, indie rock, surfy rock sort of thing. So yeah, that'd be really cool to see what they can continue to do in the coming year. All right, next song that I want to talk about, a new one from legendary hip-hop group from Perth. They're called Downsyde. And the new song is called Winding Road. Now, I also spoke a little bit about this in my previous video, or my previous podcast rather, that I'll be the first to admit that I am not well-versed in hip-hop. I'm not normally the sort of person who, in all honesty, listens to a lot of hip-hop, but I do appreciate some great hip-hop music out there. I know that Downsyde are what we might consider to be one of the greatest hip hop groups to come out of Perth. They're probably contending with Draft as, probably the biggest hip hop artist and the biggest hip hop export that we've had. But I would think probably Draft takes that cake. But they, they release good music. I mean, it's kind of comparable to Hilltop Hoods. They kind of came from that same era. If you like Hilltop Hoods, you would really like Downsyde. So yeah, check out the new one. It's called Winding Road. And also check out, if you like Aussie hip-hop or if you like West Australian hip-hop, more specifically, check out my good friend's show. His name's Gavin Crossley. His show is called BRL, which stands for Beats, Rhymes and Life. We go back from both volunteering together at 89.7, and he is one of the most knowledgeable guys about the Australian hip-hop scene that I've ever met. So he's your guy if you like Aussie hip-hop. He makes podcasts and still runs a radio show, which I'm not sure which community radio station that comes out of now, but it does, you can probably find it online somewhere if you're really interested. So that's BRL by Gavin Crossley. Check that one out if you're keen. All right, moving on to Dulcie. Now, Dulcie are what I would probably say the most likely band to kind of take the big step this year from Perth, in my opinion. I think that their sound is excellent. I think that they sound super professional. I think that their sound would really connect with Triple J listeners. And for that reason, I think that Triple J could play them a lot. I think that they are getting a little bit of airtime with this one, their new song, Tell Your Friends, on Triple J. And we all know, like, as much as I have my qualms about Triple J and the control that they have and the gatekeeping that they do, at the end of the day, like, if you get played on Triple J a lot, it often means that you build a bigger audience and that you take the next step. As frustrating as that can be for everyone who doesn't get played on Triple J, it's great for those who do. So yeah, Dulcie and their new song, Tell Your Friends, I mean, the signs are there. They've been around for a little while. People know about them. They've been growing a pretty good, strong fan base. They kind of sound a little bit like Haim. I like this song as well because it's kind of a little bit different sounding to what they've done in the past. It's a little more kind of like early 2000s girl group pop sounding, which is kind of cool. I wouldn't necessarily have imagined myself saying that I think that's cool, but I don't know. I think they pull it off, and I like their ambition. And I really hope that they do take the next step this year. So keep your ears and eyes out for Dulcie. All right, moving on to End of Fashion, and they have another new song out. It's called Wake Up. I think this is one of the songs that came out late December of last year, but it's one that I definitely want to talk about. So I'm assuming that you probably have heard of End of Fashion if you're watching this video. They were a big pop rock band in the mid-2000s out of Perth. They went through a kind of a phase of just losing an audience in the later 2000s and mid-2000s when they just kind of didn't get much publicity around their music that came out and were quite quiet for a long time. But Justin Burford, the lead singer and main songwriter of the group, has kind of pulled his socks up and kept going at it, which I really admire, and has brought some new songs out. And I think there's 3 that I can remember now, new songs over the last couple of years that have come out from them. And I'd have to say that this one, Wake Up, is probably my favorite. I think it's super catchy. It's really kind of summery sounding, which I like. And I also think that it's probably Justin's best vocal performance of the 3 songs that I've listened to so far. And I think he is an excellent vocalist. And in my opinion, probably one of the best going around in Perth right now. Even though, he's been around for a bit and there's a lot of other good young singers in Perth, I still rate him really highly. He kind of sounds like he's had that great professional training. He's got like a stage performing background as well, which I think that would obviously make his vocal chops, really strong. if he's done that before and has done it well. So yeah, if you're a fan of End of Fashion, or if you remember hearing their songs like Oh Yeah and She's Love back in the day, check out their new stuff, especially this latest one, Wake Up by End of Fashion. Check it out. All right, next up we've got Great Gable, who I mentioned before when I was talking about Death by Denim. But yeah, this band, I think I would really like to see them move a little bit more forward with their popularity as well. I think they're bringing out a new album this year, which was produced by Matt Corby, I believe. And there's been maybe 3 songs from them also, I think, that have come out to promote this new album. Their latest one is called Our Love. And I think they also brought out another song late December too. But yeah, I mean, so far I've been pretty impressed by this new stuff they've brought out. It's kind of in a similar vein to what they put out on their debut album. It's a little bit more like indie rock inspired, as opposed to kind of like that reggae rock kind of Sticky Fingers sound that they started out doing on their debut EP. And yeah, I think that they're like kind of maturing as musicians, which is really cool. I think that their sound translates really well to that Triple J audience, which is why they get played on Triple J. And I can just see them having a good year. Who knows? Maybe they'll bring out something that one of their songs from this new album that really kind of connects with a lot of people, and this could be the year they make the Hottest 100. I mean, you never know. Okay, let's move on to the next band and song that I want to talk about. It's a punk band called Incomplete, and now this band are a bunch of guys who I have met from back in my community radio days doing the garage, where obviously this sort of music was the typical sound that I would play quite a lot. These guys, they have a real kind of old school punk sound, which is really cool, kind of like Bad Religion, if you have ever heard of that band before. Like the late 80s, early 90s punk before it kind of went a little bit more mainstream. But yeah, it's a new song they brought out, which I think sounds really cool. It's called What Do You Want From Me? Check it out if you like that old school sort of punk, Bad Religion sound. I think you'd be a fan of this. Okay, let's move on to Karnivool. I cannot believe that we're talking about a new Karnivool song. It's been so long since we have heard a new Karnivool song, and I'm pretty hyped, to be honest. I've got to say, this new song that they've brought out, it's called All It Takes. It's got me excited about if there's going to be a new album out this year. I think there might. I've been hearing for like the last, I think, 2 years that they've been working on a new album. I mean, this band, they just don't put out bad stuff, and they take their time for a reason. They really want their sound and their music to be good. And I think that this new song they've put out is good. I think it's probably a little on the safe side for them. But, I mean, I couldn't deny that it just got me excited, that it sounded like what I wanted it to sound like. It sounded like kind of a mesh between their second and first album, which I really like both of them. I wasn't probably as big on their last album that came out, but yeah, I think this new song has me excited for what is possibly coming more for Karnivool this year. So if you didn't know already, that new song of theirs is out. And also, yeah, if you didn't know, I wouldn't be surprised, because for whatever reason, I feel like this is not getting a lot of publicity. I mean, it's really surprising to me. I know Karnivool has been around for a while now, but in my opinion, they're still like one of the biggest metal bands in Perth. In Australia for that matter, right? Aren't they? I know there's some, bigger, younger ones around, but I mean, these guys, they still pull an audience, don't they? Like, they're pretty big overseas still. I just don't understand. I mean, I don't think Triple J are giving it a spin. It might be getting airplay on Double J. I'm not too sure, but I mean, I'm talking about it. I'm I'm talking about this song. I hope other people are. Maybe when their album comes out, it'll get more buzz. All right, anyway, let's move on to this kind of newish band, I think. They're called Lazer Gator, and they have a new song out called Go Go Gadget, and it's pretty sick. I think you would like it if you like Rage Against the Machine. It's a mesh of two projects in Perth. This band called Bag of Bones, who I was following since I was doing my community radio show. I was a pretty big fan of some of their early music that they brought out probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. And they've teamed up with a local hip-hop artist. Oh, now I had his name up before, but it's escaping my mind. I can't remember the name of this hip-hop artist. He's a solo performer, though. And yeah, so it's kind of like real juicy, heavy guitar tones with, really intense rap over the top. So kind of similar to like Rage Against the Machine, which is why I would recommend this band and their new song called Go Go Gadget if you like that sort of thing. All right, moving on to my next artist, and this guy, his name is LOUI, and he's released a new EP. He's been around in the music scene a little bit here in Perth. He was in a local band, but he's kind of tried to do his own solo thing lately. It's a really cool sounding like bedroom pop rock. I would say similar to like the 1975 a little bit. Yeah, if you like that sort of thing, I would definitely say check out his debut EP called Thesis, and I'd say my favorite song on there is probably called How It Goes. Louis also got a YouTube channel that he's running that I've been keeping my eye on, which is really cool actually, because he's kind of talking about how he's going about his journey of trying to get people to hear his music. And it's really interesting because he goes into quite good depth about the lengths that he's going to try and get this EP that he put out in people's ears. And it's interesting. Well, I find it interesting at least because I'm really interested in how people become noticed and people grow an audience. So if you're interested in that, look him up on YouTube too. It's LOUI, which is just spelled LOUI. And I guess if you write thesis next to that name too, you should find it. And you should find his YouTube channel. So check that out. All right, moving on. Now, we've got to talk about this one. Luke Steele, legendary West Australian musician. Luke Steele is doing solo music. Now, as far as I'm aware, I think this might be his first solo release. I could be wrong on that. Feel free to comment if you're watching this and you want to tell me I'm wrong. I just haven't been aware of any solo music that he's put out before, but he has definitely put out music under different names and in bands and different projects before. So Luke Steele is famously one part of Empire of the Sun, which are a huge musical group in Australia and all over the world. Really, they did get a big audience with their debut album Walking on a Dream. That album, some of the singles off that album still get played a lot on radio stations and in clubs and on playlists and things like that. And also he used to have a pretty successful band here in Perth called the Sleepy Jackson, a band that had, I think, 2 of their albums nominated for ARIA Album of the Year. Were big back in the day on Triple J, had a lot of following and, just a lot of like people really talking up how good they thought this band sounded. Luke Steele's also teamed up recently with Daniel Johns of Silverchair. They put out a project called Dreams. To be honest, it fell really flat. It had a lot of publicity behind it, but I think a lot of people just felt like their music sucked, to be honest. Especially like Daniel Johns fans and Silverchair fans. I mean, that's a whole nother story there. I mean, what's happening with Daniel John's music and how that's evolved. I wouldn't say that I think his music is bad. I think that he's an incredible musician, Daniel Johns, but I know it's not really pleased a lot of Silverchair fans, let's say. But yeah, the project he did, well, those two guys did together, it really fell flat. But yeah, this new song that he has put out, it's called Common Man. I'm assuming that it might be the lead single of a new album to come out this year, maybe. And it sounds great. I mean, I've got to say, like, his songwriting chops really shine through in this song. It just sounds like a great singer-songwriter song. Like, you can tell he knows how to write a good song. It sounds really organic, which I like. I like that he's doing that because he, in the past, has been making music that kind of sounds a little bit less organic, you know, the Empire of the Sun and the Dream stuff. And I personally prefer more organic sounding music, you know, stuff with drums and guitars, acoustic guitars, pianos. That's just me, but I really like it. I think you should definitely check it out if you're a Luke Steele musician fan. Okay, let's move on to Methyl Ethel. They've brought out their new album. As I am speaking to you and recording this, I know their new album is out, and I haven't listened to it yet, to be honest with you. I do intend to, but there have been a couple of new songs put out to promote that album too. In particular, one I want to talk to you about is this song called Proof, especially because it's got a feature spot from Stella Donnelly, a fellow West Australian musician doing great things all over the country and the world. It's great. I think it's a pretty good song. It's kind of weird sounding, but it's kind of what I expect from Methyl Ethel. They often surprise me with what they're doing, or he surprises me, should I say. Jake Webb, he's kind of more of a solo guy with a band behind him, kind of like Tame Impala, I think. I'm not too sure on that. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what's happening there with Methyl Ethel. But yeah, I mean, check it out. If you're a Methyl Ethel fan, you must be interested in their new album. If you're a fan of some of their other songs you've heard before, like Ubu or Twilight Driving, check out the new one, Proof. Okay, moving on, I'm going to talk about a local band here called Pretty Uglies. They brought out a new song recently called Situation City, and I wanted to give this one a plug because I do remember playing this band back in my community radio station days, and I just felt like they've improved a lot. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give them a plug here in this podcast. I feel like their sound has improved a lot, and their production's improved, their songwriting's improved. I'd say they kind of sound similar to like June Rats or Violent Soho a little bit. So check that out. Check Pretty Uglies out if you like that sort of sound. Situation City is their new song. All right, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets have brought out new music too. Their latest one is called Bubblegum Infinity. I mean, it's pretty much what you would expect by now. It's really crazy psychedelic rock music. I mean, these guys have actually been around for a while now, and you know, they're never really failing to impress me or anything. Like, I think their music is really cool sounding, but it's not super surprising to me. It's nothing really new, but I would have to say, I mean, just on a couple of listens to their new song Bubblegum Infinity, I'd say that I like it. You know, that's about all I'd say. They're supposedly putting out a new album too, and I'd definitely be interested to hear it. So yeah, I'd check that out if you're a fan. Also, if you haven't heard them before, similarities there to the likes of Tame Impala, obviously King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Check them out if that's what you're into. Okay, Southern River Band brought out a new song too. This one came out, I think, towards the end of last year. One that I might have missed. It's called Are You Up? And I'd have to say, I personally think that this might be their best song. Now, that's a big call. They've brought out a lot of music now, but I think they've really kind of becoming more aware of their songwriting, and this is more evidence of that. I think that this band are really strong as a local band, and they're like a strong Perth band, and they have a pretty good local following. They play pretty big local shows. A few hundred people show up, which is awesome. I mean, if I was in a local band and that's the following I had, I would be so stoked. But I can imagine that they would just want to kind of take that next step. That would just be kind of in the back of their minds. And I've said before, I've spoken about the Southern River Band on some of my other videos that I've made on this channel, that I just don't know if they ever will take that next step, because I just can't see them getting consistent airplay on Triple J. And I could see that as being like a big barrier for them. But in saying that, this newest song they brought out, Are You Up, definitely, in my opinion, could maybe get played a little bit more on Triple J. It's a little bit more of an accessible sound. It's a little bit more gentle, and it draws on probably a little bit more of a modern influence. And then the other reason why I would probably say, or I would maybe say, that they could be more of a chance of getting some more airtime on Triple J this year if they bring out more music, or this song might, is the growth of another Australian band called Pacific Avenue. Now, this band, Pacific Avenue, aren't from Perth, but they sound kind of similar to the Southern River Band. And I was really surprised to see that they did pretty well in the Hottest 100. They didn't make it with their song Easy Love, but I think it came like about 105th, and it got really close to making it. I was not expecting that song to get that high. I thought maybe it could get into about 150 at best. But that kind of has me it has me curious to see if Triple J will, give some more credit to music like that. That's more kind of like classic rock sounding, because it did pretty well in their Hottest 100. Like, for example, if Pacific Avenue put new music out this year, Triple J would have no reason not to play it, and not to put it on high rotation. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be really interested to see what happens there, and they could really kind of pave the way for the Southern River Band to get that airtime that they rightfully deserve, in my opinion. But, yeah, Triple J, they just, you know what it's like. They have sounds they like. They'll deny that, but they definitely do. Speaking of Triple J, let's move on to the next band, Spacey Jane. All right, well, I mean, they're just about the biggest thing on Triple J right now, apart from the Wiggles, which is kind of ironic to say. But everything that they are putting out right now just is turning to gold when it comes to getting airtime on Triple J, getting streamed, getting in streaming playlists. Their videos they're putting out on YouTube are getting a lot of views. Their audience is growing by the day. I would imagine that their overseas audience is growing. Like, they probably haven't, I'm almost certain they haven't, like, even left Western Australia since the pandemic. And, when borders open up, like, this band has really got the potential to start growing a huge worldwide audience. So I really hope that they do really expand on that. So they've got a new song out called Sitting Up. They've got a new album coming out in the next couple of months. I'd be interested to hear it. Look, I'm a fan of Spacey Jane. I've been a fan of theirs for the last 6 or 7 years too. They're another band that go back to my community radio days before they were getting played on Triple J. I was playing them on my show, not to kind of spruik about that, but just as an interesting point that they have been around for a while. But it's only kind of in the last 2 or 3 years that their audience has grown, and Triple J have kind of jockeyed onto them, I guess you would say. And look, if I were to comment on this new song and their sound in general and where it's kind of going, To be honest, look, I'd have to say, I mean, I don't want to be negative because I love WA music in general, and I do like Spacey Jane, but it wasn't too exciting to me, I'd have to say. It sounds a little safe. I didn't mind their 2 songs they brought out last year, Lunchtime and Lots of Nothing. I probably preferred Lunchtime. And they both did well in the Hottest 100, obviously. But yeah, this new song, I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like a Spacey Jane song. And that was about it. That was kind of my response. Yeah, so it remains to be seen what the album will sound like. I'll be very interested to hear it. I'm hoping it will impress me. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right, moving on. This next band, they're called Star Arcana. They have a new song out called The Now. I spoke about this band in my last video podcast that I did. They're probably not as well known as some other Perth bands going around, but I want to put them in this list of songs and artists to talk about because I personally like them, to be honest. I just think that they have a cool sound. It's kind of like a mix of, like, I kind of hear like some Oasis in there. I hear some Turnover in there. I hear some almost like kind of sad boy, Tumblr sounding grunge music, you know, like your Citizens and Basements kind of have that sound in there a little bit, and that's all stuff that I like. So yeah, I think that their sound is really cool, and I also really like the fact that they have a really active social media, and they just play a buttload of shows. This band plays so many shows, so I think they deserve a little bit of attention for the amount of work they're putting in. So check out the new one. It's called The Now. Star Arcana, that's their name. And last one I want to talk about is a new release from Surf Shop Cops. It's called Nothing Is Alright. Now this band has just gone through a name change over the last year or so. They used to be called Last Lions. And look, I'd say it's a similar situation to Star Arcana here. This band goes back to my days in community radio. I used to like playing this band a lot. I had them in as guests multiple times. And, you know, they're a super cool band. I really like their sound. I think it's kind of like a really cool mesh of like the Smith Street Band and the Arctic Monkeys. And this new one that they put out, Nothing Is Alright. It's some of their best work, in my opinion. It's really energetic, really kind of gets you going, really sort of like garagey sounding. And yeah, I want to promote them because I personally like them. And I also feel like they put in a lot of hard work and they play a lot of shows. And I feel like they deserve more credit than they get. So check out Surf Shop Cops and their new song, Nothing Is Alright. Alright, that wraps it up. That's 20 new songs that have come out over the last couple of months from Perth. Now, if you want to listen to all these songs or if you want to check out any specifically, I have made a Spotify playlist. So jump into the YouTube video description. You'll find a link to that there. And also, if you like this video and you want to see more stuff like this, firstly, just check out some other videos on my channel. I've got about 30 now. I'm still kind of building up a resume of videos. It's hard work. I work full time. And I really love doing this and talking about music. And it's something that I'd love to do more of, but yeah, I just try to do it whenever I have some spare time, and I really like the fact that people engage with me on this YouTube channel about music and West Australian music. So yeah, thanks for jumping on and watching and listening, and feel free to comment. And also, please, if you like this stuff, please subscribe. I think, to be honest, like the best thing or the best feeling that I have about making these videos is when someone subscribes. It just makes me feel like, oh wow, that means this person likes my videos and they want to see more of them. And that's the only way that I know if people like them, is if people subscribe. So yeah, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of my stuff and you like it. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you again soon on Solitude. See ya, bye.